Hi.
Hi. Hi, Kevin.
How's it going?
Good. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you.
Nice. So here we are. So glad that we're doing this because boy is this fun. And so I guess for today we're going to talk about. I think the teacher wants us to talk about a deconstruction of the Apple ad. Um, and that's the Apple ad with the two guys,
Yep.
right?
Mac versus PC.
Mac versus PC. Hilarious. So I guess I'll mention a few things that I found
Sure.
in terms of what seemed to strike me as areas to deconstruct. So one of the things, of course, is the fact that there are two men in
Okay.
this particular ad. So I'm noticing, something to the effect of that. Like there are two men in there. One's in a suit. Whereas one is looking trendy. The guy in the suit happens to be the PC guy. The guy that's looking more trendy and younger is the Apple guy. And also the fact that the PC guy is a little bit older. There's so many different things to say about the characters.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly from our visual literacy point of view, we can certainly talk about the fact that they are, in fact, two men. Why not two women? Why not, more diversity in color?
Okay,
and so
why
forth?
not two women?
Why
I'm
not two
asking,
women?
why not two women?
Why not two women? Well, it's a good question. I think at that, perhaps we would have to, ask ourselves maybe at that time, why would that's contextual. When
Sure.
did these ads come out? And I suppose
Early to mid 2000s.
early to mid 2000s, right? So yeah, why not two women? Darn good question. Perhaps that has to do with the marketing strategy, right? Which is my words for you.
For sure.
But the idea is that if whoever's being represented in the ad would have something to do with the audience, the consumers that they want to attract. So in this case, chances are, in this particular ad, there might have something to do with wanting to attract men. However, that being said, in this particular ad that we're referring to, at one point there is an introduction to a woman that comes into that ad.
Absolutely.
So that's kind of interesting there. Do you want to throw something in?
Yeah.
Because there's so many things to cover.
So just referring to the fact that there's two men, I take a look at it in terms of who is the target market for this ad. And if we take a look at Jonathan Hodgman, the actor who's playing the older person in the suit, he's obviously representing PC. You have Justin Long, who's representing somebody who's younger. Apple is obviously going after a younger target market.
Right.
Even though Apple is a mass product, a way they convey that is going for the youth market, and it kind of works its way up. So it makes a lot of sense to go over from an age point of view. The segments make a lot of sense. I do wonder how it would have played had they decided to use women or any other type of diversity. But when you think about the context, let's say 15 years ago or even 10 years ago, it may have been a harder sell to go from a mass perspective. I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I can understand in a boardroom 10 years ago why they would have made that call. So staying with the idea of target markets, I think for me that it does, the reason it works for everybody is that the type of appeal that they're trying to use is really the slice of life, which means that we all have been in that situation where a laptop doesn't work for whatever reason. We can all relate to that. And all the Mac versus PC ads, they're all slice of life ads. So that's why for me, I think they could have used any type of actors in today's context with the same scenario. And as long as they're funny, I think it still would have been fine.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, that's interesting. Well, just bringing up the point of funny is part of the script, and that's an interesting element in and of itself. Is that again, how are they creating, sort of like a fetish for their product?
Yeah.
Well, there's something to do with if you find something funny. I mean, this all fits into it. There's something funny going on here. We look forward to, as a matter of fact, these particular ads. We look forward to seeing the next ad
because they're fun
in that context.
Yeah.
And they had. I mean, for those that don't know. Those ads became, there were many of them,
There's
right?
like 60 or 70. I don't remember the number, but it's high.
And you developed this anticipation of what the next one was going to be, in part because of the humor between those two guys, the script.
The chemistry.
Absolutely. So the script was really funny. So many different variables around the actors, around the script, around the representation of who they are, and all of that. Absolutely. Getting into another segment of it, I mean, we can also talk about, just the aesthetic of the set itself. So the mise en scène for this particular very white. And so white in and of itself, as a semiotic, if we go into that. I mean, what does that represent? I mean, from a visual literacy point of view, white is so very, it's about clean, it's about white represents positive. There's all of this. If it were black, it would be a whole other ballgame,
For
right?
sure.
But as white, there's something about its purity, about again the representation of the sleekness of Apple.
Yeah.
Because again, these are more commercials designed to pull us into the Apple product. So what's your thinking?
And it's subtle, and I'm not trying to steal your phone, but take a look at the actual
look
product.
Look at both of our
Yeah.
phones. Now that we have to look at.
So I have an Android phone, and like the simplicity of it is a little bit different. And you talk about like ideally you want your product and your ads to be cohesive.
That's so true.
They don't have to be the same color background, obviously, but like you want some consistency with that.
Absolutely.
And just relating that from a marketing perspective, what's the message of the ad? If you not necessarily the specific one, but for all the Mac versus PCs, they're all about simplicity. Mac is simple. Mac is easy. Mac is simple. Mac is easy. What is simpler than a white background with two people talking? Right? So the message that they're saying is consistent with the products that they're delivering, which is consistent with the script in the background. So everything really works together for a cohesive whole.
Right.
So you can watch that without sound and still think that Apple is simple. That's an easy marketing test that you can do. If I don't hear the words, or if I close my eyes and only hear the words, is it still consistent? So, because if there's a clash and you're not fully engaged, then you're not going to think about it the same way.
Yeah. That's fantastic. I mean, what's amazing about what you're saying is that there is so much overlap between our two conversations here.
There better be, or the ad's going to suck. That's just how it is, right?
It's so true. It's so true. No, this is awesome. Let's see what else I got here. So, yes, white symbolizes purity, resembles the white of Apple, which is awesome. Again, this coming from the visual literacy point of view, represents cleanliness. Represents modernity, represents sleek.
Agree with all those things.
And
even if you take a look at the way the guy is wearing his suit, John Hodgman, his suit isn't perfectly fitting. It's a little bit baggy, and because it's a little bit baggy, it makes him seem older than he is, or a little bit more out of shape than he necessarily is.
Yeah.
I mean, he looks a little chunkier but if you see him in real life, he's actually not. He doesn't look like that.
Right.
So even like the modernity and the youth is actually shown by the clothing selection that they have in the ads.
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Actually, that's an interesting point, to make is that, here we are looking at characters, and you have a little bit of knowledge of who these characters are outside of the commercial.
Yeah.
So you can sort of speak to, and sometimes it's probably useful for you to see that, and to do that little extra research if you didn't know already, so that you've got some kind of that much more. It exemplifies that much more of how these characters are developed for the purpose of the ad.
And this is always challenging. So if you take a look at Justin Long and Jonathan Hodgman, they're not super famous, right? Like there have been in other movies. There's do some stand-up skits, but they're not like celebrity endorsements.
Yeah.
But they're famous enough that had they done something wrong during that time, the brand would have looked really bad.
Good point.
So part of the discussion in terms of what type of actor should we hire, what type of celebrity should we hire, is a very big decision for a brand. And if you're Apple today, I mean, they use a lot of different actresses or spokespeople,
right.
But that's still a big risk for any major brand.
Yeah.
So that's something that they have to weigh.
That's a very good point. It is interesting too, because yes, they're not super. They were not super well known, and yet you look at other ads today, and sometimes the whole point is to use a famous person
Taylor
to really,
Swift.
absolutely, to create that absolute, again, fetish for the product, assuming that you're going to have a fetish for the actor in the part. And in this case, it was a lot more subtle. But it worked to the advantage. So again, to add more. So we've said a lot about the actors. Younger, hit, more articulate. By the way, also right. Like just he's more confident.
Smooth,
absolutely. More embracing, less judgmental, less insecure.
Yeah.
Embracing of diversity. So in this particular, which is kind of interesting that way. You've got again. Sort of like
the irony of the lack of diversity. Apple is very non-diverse when you think about their products. Right? It's all one platform. It's all integrated. They have less selection than you should take a look at PC in general, where everything is customized.
That's an interesting.
So it's actually a weird how they do that.
Right. So their diversity, in a sense, in terms of the representation, has to do with their ability in this ad to link themselves to other cultures.
Exactly. So everybody uses their platform. That is their diversity, but their product diversity is actually very low. Right? Because if everyone's using the newest version of the iPhone, it's still one iPhone for everybody. Right. But I can buy 1,000, maybe not 1,000. I can buy a lot of different Android devices that come out every year.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's just an interesting juxtaposition if you take a look at it that way.
Yeah, it's interesting that way.
Yeah.
But for the sake of a commercial, what are you going to represent? It's true.
You're better off with one product that everyone understands than showing 20.
That simplicity. right. So super interesting. The other thing about diversity, which I found interesting, was that in terms of saying that these are two white guys, which is very distinct. To say like this PC really representing, sort of like the old white guy,
The old establishment.
right, the old establishment, exactly.
Which still exists.
Versus, yeah. The other guy is a little bit more ambiguous in terms of his representation, I would say. But nonetheless,
he's purposefully plain.
Sort of like the all-encompassing.
Yeah, right. Like you don't.
So there's a strategy in that. There is a strategy in figuring out exactly who to hire for a context like this. Not that it's exactly what we would have in today's world, but nonetheless, it really by its point. And
other than maybe diversity, you could still run this ad today, and it would still.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I can see people complaining about a lack of diversity with two actors like that, but I mean, there's from a message standpoint, it's still what Apple's doing.
Totally.
If they wanted to run this campaign, I don't think there would be a problem.
No, it really holds. It really holds.
It really does.
A lot like Apple.
Yeah. Apple has its own
I guess there's a little bias towards Apple. Not that I have a fetish for Apple, by the way.
It's okay. You can. Nothing says you can't. So I think it's a good idea to stop here. I think we've had a good discussion.
I think this is great. And I think I just want to reiterate what incredible overlap we've had.
Yeah.
We've just said so many similar things. You've included a little bit of slice of life terminology, which is lovely to hear because slice of life is very distinct. It's very. It's also certainly it's a universal concept term and representation. And again, that's awesome. Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you. So this is kind of the conversation that we're hoping to see in our group discussion. So we thought this video would help you out. Obviously, take that when you're in groups of 4 or 5. Go in different directions as much as you can. But I hope you enjoy this and this was helpful. And we'll see you in class soon.
Thanks.